back. You're still watching Nile Cruise on Nile TV, and in the second segment of the program we turn from the International Women's Day to nanosciences, nanotechnology and robotics, as the paper wireless motion control of the paramagnetic microparticle using a magnetic-based robotic system with the open configuration by Dr. Islam Khalil and others was awarded with the Best Application Paper Award at the International Conference on the Manipulation, Manufacturing and Measurement on the Nanoscale in China in 2015. And the ultimate ambition of this conference series is to bridge the gap between the nanosciences and the engineering sciences, aiming at technology opportunities and new markets. The advanced technologies for manipulation, manufacturing and measurement at the nanoscale promise new revolutionary products and methods in numerous areas of application. And to be speaking more about the development of such a field, today we are hosting Professor Dr. Islam Khalil, the Assistant Professor of Robotics. Thank you very much for being with us today on Nile Cruise.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you.
Welcome with us, Dr. Islam. Actually, it's worth mentioning also that actually the paper itself has been implemented and already they've underwent the experimentations of it to make sperm-inspired micro-robots, and that would be helping in many medical procedures as well, like cancer treatment, for instance. Now, Dr. Islam, first of all, would you tell us more about the start of that idea and how did you start the experiment?
Thank you for the introduction. And the first thing is too many research groups are now working on the development of micro-robotic systems. The ultimate goal of these systems is to target cancer cells. This is one of the applications. We are building small robots. They are tiny, you cannot see them with the naked eye, and we can achieve control, precise motion control of these robots. And one of the applications is just target therapy, where you dream of putting several micro-robots inside the cardiovascular system of a human, and under the influence of controlled magnetic fields or any other source, you will move these micro-robots towards a diseased cell, and that's how we think the future of medicine is going to be. It's target therapy. So what we do in our lab is building these micro-robots. Some of them are just particles, like tiny spheres, and they are magnetic and they can be coated with any chemotherapeutic agent. Some other robots are just like the sperm cell. They have morphology that's similar to microorganisms like E. coli, bacteria, like sperm cells, as you mentioned. So we have diversity of let's say micro-robots with different locomotion mechanisms, and we control their motion, and the next step is moving towards application.
So this is about robotics.
Yes.
Is robotics a part of nanosciences, or is it vice versa?
Well, this science is part of robotics, yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, why do we call these tiny things micro-robots? Because actually when you look at the thing, you will say this is not a robot. We are used to see robots with joints, with actuators, with like in cartoons, okay?
Yes.
But when you look at a robot that looks like a sperm cell, you will say, why are you calling this a micro-robot? Actually, the thing is, all the counterparts, all the elements in a robot exist, but in a different scale. So if you are thinking of how I'm going to make a huge robot small, you will face a lot of technological barriers. You cannot make a small battery. You cannot make a small motor in nanoscale. But you will have to do something else. So we get our designs from nature. We look at how microorganisms swim, like, let's say, like a sperm cell, like E. coli, bacteria, any microorganism, and we try to mimic their locomotion.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand that these micro-robots are something like 322 micron long. That's actually quite small.
Yeah, that's a diameter of hair.
Yeah.
But actually, we can make smaller ones or bigger ones. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, how are you going to insert it in the human body and navigate it to be able to explore where the problem is?
We till now, and all over the world, nobody have implemented such thing.
Theoretically.
Yes, yes. Theoretically, we are planning on putting these robots inside the cardiovascular system. And injecting the robot inside the cardiovascular system, it will be swimming in a Newtonian fluid like blood, against or along the streams of blood. So by just a 23 gauge needle, these micro-robots can be injected. And why I'm saying 23 gauge needle, because the 23 gauge needle will make the process completely minimally invasive. So if we inject these micro-robots with 23 gauge needle inside the cardiovascular system, they can swim. Well, we will have two challenges now. How can we deliver power to these micro-robots? And we do it now with magnetic fields. So we build electromagnets, and it will be something similar to an MRI bore. And the challenge now is how to visualize. Because eventually, if you would like to control the motion, you will have to get some kind of feedback. You will have to understand where you are so that you take the correct actions on the position of the robot. And that's why in the future we will integrate imaging modalities, clinical imaging modalities to our systems. So what we have now is completely robotic and magnetic systems. Robotic systems like the one that you visited us like 2 months ago in the lab.
Yes.
So we integrate robots to electromagnets. We are working on that now. But in the future, a medical imaging modality will also be integrated to provide feedback from within the human body.
Yes, Dr. Islam, moving on to your research, and you have designed a micro-robot that can be moving wirelessly to be treating some diseases. Tell me more about that.
Well, so far we did actually two applications. One of them is targeting cancer cells, but of course outside the human body. And the second thing is clearing blood clots, grinding of blood clots. And we have actually two systems that are working on this. So I will talk first about how we clear the blood clots, because this is actually a straightforward problem. You face it a lot in our country and all over the world. So if you have a blood clot, you will have to take drug like streptokinase, and we are trying to do something else. We are trying to use these micro-robots to grind the blood clot without any drug, without chemical lysis. And we did some experiment, and of course outside the human body, because what we do is we prepare the blood clots inside catheter segments, and we inject the micro-robots. We control the micro-robots, and they move all the way towards the clot, and they grind the clot. Then they decrease the size of the clot. We're working on this. We have a system, a magnetic-based robotic system called the HeliMag system. As to the cancer cells, what we do now is very simple. We build a magnetic system, an electromagnetic system under microscopic guidance. This system enables penetration of cancer cells. So we can get the cancer cell, we can manipulate the cancer cell. We are talking about 20 microns. It's 5 times less than the diameter of hair. We are dealing with brain cancer cells.
Yes.
We manipulate the cell and we move the nanorobots towards the cell selectively. And I'm talking about single cell. And then we penetrate the cell. We put the robot inside the cell. What does that mean? What is the impact of this? Well, if you can do this, this means that you have the intelligence to distinguish between the diseased and and healthy cells, and you can target only the cancer cells, and you can deliver drugs selectively to the diseased cells only.
So you don't have to damage the other healthy cells.
Exactly, Ahmed, exactly.
Now, doctor, how would that micro-robot be able to distinguish between a healthy cell and an unhealthy cell?
Well, we assume that we know this information, and our role is to achieve the control. So now what we do is we get two cells, both of them are cancer cells, okay? And then we say cell A, cell B, and I will just target cell A. Then we see that our control and our micro-robots are smart enough so that they can actually avoid cell B and go to cell A, or the other ways around.
So actually you need more researchers to work on the distinguishment.
Exactly. We don't focus on this now, but our concern is on the accuracy of control, on making this experiment in a few seconds. And of course I'm saying we are doing it in outside the human body. So all the experiments are done in vitro. Yeah, so which means we will face too many problems when we move to in vivo experiments. Yeah.
So, in your opinion, when can these techniques be finished?
Well, I would say that too many groups in Switzerland and in Canada, they are the fastest ones are working now as we speak. And maybe in less than 10 years they will come up with something. I hope that we can also come up with something faster than them, but actually I love to be realistic.
Now, Dr. Islam, is it true that the ingredients itself contains a bit of cobalt and nickel within them? So now, what about the extraction from the human body? Have you considered that, and the effect of nickel and that cobalt being in the bloodstream?
Yes, Rasha. This is a very nice question, Rasha. It's like now you say, oh, you guys are putting toxic material in our bodies, so how are we gonna get rid of this material eventually? So sometimes when you do research and when we want to do a proof of concept, we don't focus much on toxicity. So we want to make sure that the robot is moving. And when we did this, of course we used cobalt, nickel, iron layers to provide dipole moment. But we can also fabricate the same robot out of biodegradable material, and we are working on this. For instance, we built the sperm-shaped robots out of material called SU8 with layers of nickel and cobalt and all these things. Some of them are toxic, but in this study we only wanted to show people that we can control the motion. As opposed to other research where we use paramagnetic, that's what you mentioned, Ahmed. You mentioned that we control paramagnetic particles, and the paramagnetic particles, surprisingly, they are biodegradable. Yeah.
So what about scientific research here in Egypt? What are the main challenges facing scientific research, and what about financing, money?
Well, this is the bottom line. So in order to do something, you will have to fund all this, and you should have the desire to do it. And this is one of the biggest problems. It's a problem, but if I'm allowed to talk about my university, so my university is funding my research completely. And this is actually surprising, because in too many countries, universities, they don't support the research, but researchers themselves, they have to get funds. So in my university, in the German university in Cairo, our university,
we can say the name of the university.
Yeah. So in my university, they are completely funding the research. They are funding the lab.
Well, what about the country? The government organizations?
Yes, we have a very nice fund. It's called STDF. This is Science, Technology and Development Fund. In this fund, all researchers in Egypt, they are allowed to write grants and apply for these grants. And I'm actually grateful because I got one of these grants. So along with the fund I'm getting from my university, I'm also getting fund from the government. Yes.
Well, Dr. Islam, I'd like also to ask you about the scientific research in China, because actually your paper won the award in China for 2015. Now, did you do certain scientific exchange courses or programs with China? How do you find the scientific field in China in that particular field of robotics?
Well, we have collaborators all over the place. We collaborate with a lot of researchers in the States, in China, in Russia, in Europe. We have collaborators everywhere. It's actually surprising that everybody knows the importance of science. So they are investing a lot of money now, and they are building very good labs, and they are trying to publish in the same venues just like Americans and Europeans.
Professor Dr. Islam Khalil, the Assistant Professor of Robotics, thank you very much for being with us today on Nile Cruise.
Thank you, Ahmed. Thank you. Thank you, Rasha.
Well, and now it's time to enjoy a report about Cruise Online.
اسم الله الرحمن سموا عليها تكبر وكل النور منها وفيها.
Hello and welcome to a new edition of Nile Cruise. Let's see what we have. Some couples leave the wedding reception in a stretch limo, others may opt for a more traditional horse-drawn carriage. Nadia Hussein and Salam Al-Murah choose something rather different and caused a social media sensation in the process. The newlyweds, who are members of the Emirates Riders biking community, climbed a broad Harley-Davidson motorcycle festooned with flowers and netting. Nadia, 29, astride a Sportster 48, was in an all-white outfit, including a hijab, wedges and trousers under a tulle skirt. Here's the video.
نادية حسين، أنا بايكر، صار لي أسوق دراجة تقريبا 4 سنوات، أسوق دراجة سبورتستر 48. جتني فكرة إني أنا أسوي إرشي بالبايك.
And in the second place on Instagram after candle hashtag #IHeartHair was a picture posted by Taylor Swift of a massive bouquet of white flowers sent to her by Kanye West, which garnered 2.5 million likes. Here is the photo. Originally released on July 15, 2012, Gangnam Style quickly became a cultural and global phenomenon anchored by an agreeable, catchy tune and a ridiculously bizarre, delightfully and visually engaging K-pop video. And oh yes, sis, mention it came with its own dance. Thankfully, the dance has since gone the way with Dudu, but Gangnam Style still holds the record for being the fastest song to ever accumulate 1 billion YouTube views, having achieved the feat in only 160 days.
Oppan Gangnam Style. Gangnam Style.